A most worldly man and his professional basketball team have touched down in the Bay Area to begin the heart of a really long road trip. From Furkan Korkmaz to Tyrese Maxey, the 76ers are at Chase Center tonight where they take on the Golden State Warriors as they begin 4 in a row against Western Conference teams as we get ready for some late night, early morning basketball here on 7-6 Live Countdown presented by Tissot. Lauren Rosen, are you caffeinated? Are you ready?
Without exposing myself too much, I have 2 different types of caffeine on my table right now. So yes, I am both caffeinated and ready, excited for some Sixers basketball and ready to welcome the challenge of these late nights ahead instead of dread it. I'm trying to turn over a new leaf here with some positivity. This will be fun. We'll make it fun.
Yeah. This is the first one, and these are usually the hardest. Your body has to adapt to even being on West Coast time if you're not on the West Coast. So I think let's get one out of the way, and then we'll keep on keeping on. The 76ers, after tonight's game, head farther south to L.A., where they take on the Lakers on Thursday and the Clippers on Saturday. And they wrap up the West Coast trip of their road trip with a game against the Denver Nuggets early next week. Sixers got the road trip off on a really good note. They eked out a 1-point overtime win, 101-100 against the New York Knicks on Sunday. Really, I don't know, Lauren, can we say the Sixers are 2-0 on this road trip so far? Because if you remember, on Saturday against Sacramento, they kind of were like, that's game number 1 of this trip.
Yeah, I think they would say that they're 2-0 so far on this road trip. And logistically, I'm willing to accept that if they really packed their suitcases before that first game of the back-to-back on Saturday at the center, brought their suitcases with them. They had technically left home at that point, right? That's the beginning of the road trip. They won both games in that back-to-back. The second one you alluded to by just 1 point, not the prettiest win, but hey, they all count the same. So I'd say they're 2-0 to start this trip.
This one, Lauren, was not pleasant for me. This was flashback inducing. Doesn't matter if it was a single doink and not a quadruple doink. But still, the 76ers seemed like they might have had that game won. It went to overtime, and still less than a minute to go, down by 4. Tobias Harris stepping up big time to help the 76ers back.
Yes, anytime we see a ball bounce on a rim, it's not necessarily the most welcome sight. But yes, it ultimately did go the Sixers' way thanks to those 2 free throws from Tobias Harris, who did miss 2 in the fourth quarter, and he talked about how disappointed he was in himself for missing those. But as do all good pros, he made it happen at the end of the game, and a win is a win. Julius Randle, not happy about it.
No, and he got hit in the wallet because he was not happy about it. The 76ers, they got to win. They're now 30-13 on the season. They and the Jazz at that point on Sunday, we're the only two teams in the NBA with 30 wins on the year. But as you can see, competition figures to be stiffer on this Western Conference road trip, this portion of the road trip. The four opponents out of the West, Lauren, combined for a winning percentage of 60 on the nose. The Warriors come in a game above 500 at 22-21. They're just outside of the top 8 in the West. No Seth Curry tonight, out with a tailbone contusion. We know that Klay Thompson is missing for this year. So the Sixers, this does not figure to be an easy task, but I really like the way they've been playing, not at full strength.
And we've talked about the opportunity to beat a team that this is a winnable game. So it's like you said, no Steph, no Clay. That makes the Warriors a pretty vulnerable team, even though the Sixers are shorthanded without Joel Embiid and without Seth Curry, neither Curry brother available for this one, unfortunately. But I like the Sixers' chances should they be able to sort of take that intensity into the first quarter and maintain the way we saw last week in a couple of those winnable games. But we talk about it a lot. You got to win the winnable ones, and tonight is one of those.
Now, going back to Sunday, for me, it was all about the bottom line. The 76ers emerge from the Garden with a win, or did they not? They did. They found a way. It was a game that featured 11 lead changes and 6 ties. The 76ers, once again, showing that they have a clutch gene, or perhaps better put, and more of the truth behind that, is they're able to find ways, different ways, to win games. And I think that's the quality of a team that's made to contend. I think that those are the types of situations that you're inevitably going to find yourself in when you're in the postseason, in the playoffs. Things might not be going your way. Shots might not be falling. You might make some mistakes. Can you rebound? Can you pivot quickly and still get the job done? 76ers did that.
They sure did. They say you win or you learn. I think in this one, the Sixers got to do both. They got the win, but there was a lot to learn at the end of the game there. We heard from Tobias Harris. We've heard from Danny Green. We'll hear from some of those guys later on in the show, but they weren't thrilled leaving the Garden. They felt that they had more to do. There's obviously better basketball that can be played by this team, but like you said, they got it done when it mattered in clutch time. Really interesting, Seltz, that this team has already played in so many overtime games. You have to wonder if that'll come in handy down the stretch.
And just for those who might not be familiar with the clutch stat that the NBA uses, those are games that are within 5 points, essentially in the final 5 minutes of regulation. I loved seeing Matisse Thybulle make that shot, Lauren. I think that hopefully in the long run, making those type of shots will do good things for his confidence and his belief in his exterior game. Yes, put it back in the holster. You know, that was a great shot by Matisse.
Well, we saw Matisse celebrating a little bit more last season when the shots really were falling at a higher clip for him at the beginning of his rookie season. So to see him celebrate a little bit more now, I think does show a lot about where his confidence is, and his defensive game has just been incredibly elite. It's crazy to think that he's already improved from where he was just a year ago. And there's, of course, Tobias Harris making it happen from the line in overtime. I don't care how many years you've played in the league, Celts. Being forced to win a game at the line in overtime, that's got to be incredibly stressful.
Especially when just a few minutes earlier, towards the end of regulation in the final 2 minutes, Tobias missed 2 free throws. Obviously, if those had been makes, we wouldn't have been talking about an overtime game. I thought it was really revealing that he said that on the foul that occurred on that play, he couldn't feel his hand, which to me, given the way Tobias shoots his free throws, there certainly seems to be some credence to that, explaining why he missed 2. But to tune out that noise and not have that thought lurking enough in your mind, I'm sure it was present to a certain extent, but not lurking and overshadowing you enough to still toe the stripe and make shots that win the game, I thought that was impressive.
No doubt about it. Not the first time Tobias has been able to win a game for his team late in games. Not the first time that he's struggled from the field early and still found ways to make it happen down the stretch. Such a good sign when you look at what's to come for Tobias and for this team as they continue for the next week or so, at least without Joel Embiid, and then look to the playoffs, hopefully with both of those guys available late in games.
Tobias was pretty frank and honest about his self-assessment of his performance after the game. Here was what he thought.
Not the way we wanted it, but a win is a win. We'll take it. For me, just going to the line and doing what I normally do, same routine. Not blocking out all the noise, just really blocking out all the noise and locking in and focus. I mean, first 2 free throws I got in the fourth quarter, I really couldn't feel my hand going to the line shooting them because of the foul. And, I'll never miss 2 in a row. So that was a tough one. But just getting the opportunity again late in overtime, I just wanted to win a game because we had too much going on the whole night. I was like, man, we got to put this one down and get the win.
And get the win the 76ers did. Noteworthy, Lauren, that even in the aftermath of a win, which is on the surface a very good and positive thing, Tobias Harris still critical of himself and straightforward with his evaluation of the game. Seems like Doc Rivers appreciated that.
For sure. And he's honest about where he fell short. Missing those 2 free throws, very out of character for Tobias, who's an 89% free throw shooter this year, and has expressed the pride he felt when he was a member of the 40-50-90 club, or the 50-40-90 club, rather. And I think hopes to get back there by the end of the season. He's been so efficient all year. And so, when you think about the numbers, to miss 2 free throws when you miss so infrequently must have been tough. Great to see him get it back on track there at the end.
One guy whose name we haven't mentioned yet here on 7-6 Live Countdown, presented by Tissot, about 10 minutes into the program, recapping the last game. Shame on this guy right here. Danny Green, fantastic last 2 games for the Sixers. I thought coming off the overtime loss to Milwaukee last Wednesday, he in the beginning of the game on Saturday against Sacramento came out firing, had some big defensive plays, made some threes, got the Sixers off to a great start in that game. They never looked back. And against the Knicks on Sunday in overtime, who was it who answered Alec Burks with back-to-back 3-pointers? It was Danny Green. And listen, I think that while the numbers may not jump off the page always, I think when you watch, you can see Danny Green. And to me, very interesting in the second half of the season when the 76ers have a couple teams, the Nets and the Bucks, breathing down their neck for first in the East. Danny Green has made some real, not surprisingly, winning plays.
For sure. 5 steals for Danny in this one. And while he started a little bit slower on the offensive end, like you said, he was just so clutch for this team down the stretch. 6 of the team's 13 in overtime, all 11 of his points in the fourth quarter or overtime. You see some of them there. And it's just wonderful to have a veteran like that who can keep the guys together in the huddle, which we're going to hear about in a second, but also keep the guys together and in the game out on the floor. He really made it happen. Great to see him celebrate as well.
Yeah, that very nice floater for him right there. And I know that there are times where this season even, Danny has had some streaky stretches with his shot, but based on the guy's track record, his history, what he's done, the wins that are on his resume and the role that he's played in them, I ain't betting against Long Island's own, the pride of Babylon, Danny Green. He has been great these last couple games, and Doc Rivers detailed following Sunday's victory just how important Danny was on the court and also the intangibles he offered the 76ers.
Danny saved the game for us. He was the only one, in my opinion, that kept his composure. Just we made mistakes. The game should have never gone in overtime, and let me just put it that way. And so you could feel our energy. It wasn't a good energy. Guys were down. They were mad. They thought they had blown the game. I kept telling them we're going into overtime. That means the game is tied. And Danny was the only one in the huddle. Guys, we're going to win the game. He just kept saying it. So he went out and did it.
Love hearing that little insight from Doc Rivers. And listen, I think one thing, Lauren, that has given the 76ers a shot throughout the season is their defense. And we know how good it was at the start of the season. Took a little bit of a lull in the middle portion of that first half going towards the All-Star game break. I thought it picked right back up before the break a bit. And since the All-Star break, the defense has been the best in the NBA since the break, only giving up 99.3 points per 100 possession in terms of defensive rating. It's been really important for this team.
And crazy to think that that is a statistic that they've built up largely without Joel Embiid, one of the best defenders in the game. The fact that they're out defending opponents and out defending the rest of the league, even without someone who could be considered their defensive anchor, really impressive stuff. And if we remember back to media day and the preseason, Doc Rivers and the team expressed that they wanted to set the tone on defense every night. they've been doing it since the break, and they've been doing it at an elite level for sure.
And the Sixers' number 2 defense in the entire NBA overall this season. But really interesting, Lauren, that disparity, that the number 2 defensive rating in the league for the season is where it is at just over 107. But since the All-Star break, the Sixers giving up fewer than 100 per 100. I think that's telling of just how good this defense has been.
Well, they found ways to start strong defensively and then maintain. And I think before the All-Star break, we saw strong starts, we saw strong finishes, but we didn't necessarily see the full 48 that Doc Rivers likes to talk about on the defensive end. I think we've seen a lot more of that since the break, and it's a great sign as this team heads down the stretch.
Talk about a great sign in the here and now and for the future. We all know none of you slept on the bubble coats and what Delaware did in Orlando. They were led by a man, a B-ball man, B-ball Paul Reed. Can we give a shout out? Let's clap it up. Snap your fingers, whatever it is you're doing while you're streaming at home. Send your positive vibes. Yeah, something like that. To Paul Reed. Let's roll the graphic. Look at what this man has done. Great things. I know he has.
Yes, indeed. I was going to go
there
ahead and
it is.
describe
Yes.
it either way. Perfect. So yesterday, of course, Paul Reed not only named Rookie of the Year, but MVP. He wasn't just the best rookie in the G League bubble or the Gubble. He was the best player in the Gubble. And earlier this morning, I got to get some reaction from Paul about how he's feeling about those awards.
Hey, Paul, yesterday we learned about your G League MVP and Rookie of the Year honor. What was your reaction to hearing about those awards, and how are you feeling about it today?
I feel good. You know, it's a great accomplishment for sure. And you know, for me, I just want to stay grounded and stay focused on tomorrow and today. You know, so just focus on the game, focus on, you know, continue to get better every day, and you know, just to continue to improve so I can hopefully win another one of those awards.
Your teammates also really embraced you following that announcement. They really showed love on social media. What's it been like being back with the Sixers and celebrating together?
It feels great. Like you said, they have been celebrating. They have been embracing it. They be hyping my head up. You know, that's why I got to stay grounded. I got to stay like humble. You feel me? Because they be gassing me up too much.
Paul Reed, thanks so much, and congratulations.
Really cool indeed to hear from Paul about the way that his teammates have embraced this award. We saw Ben Simmons shout him out on social media, a bunch of his teammates yesterday celebrating Paul's accomplishments. He said later in that interview that he's really been warming up to Tobias Harris at practices, trying to get some more tips and tricks from one of the ultimate pros in this game. So really cool to see Paul's growth since the draft earlier this year.
Love it. B-ball Paul doing great stuff. Also named today, a couple more honors, all rookie and also all defensive in the Gubble. That's been one of the best NBA sports related nicknames I've heard in the last year. I think that's the Gubble. I love it.
The Gubble and B-ball Paul, two excellent nicknames.
Yeah.
I'm all about both.
Big wins. He's officially out of the mud. 76ers are out west against the Golden State Warriors. Of course, last year they moved over the bridge across the bay to San Francisco, where they play now at Chase Center. Still no fans in the building there. And also no Splash Brothers. Curry out tonight. Tailbone, the other Curry's out too for the 76ers, which we haven't touched upon yet. And Klay Thompson will miss the entire season. But there's still some talent with Golden State. They have been getting by. Lauren, they're an above 500 team in the West, which is no small feat. And there's still some talent there.
For sure. This is a Warriors team that you should never count out at your own risk. A lot of talent, a lot of young talent on this Warriors team. And of course, they're guys that get to practice every day with Steph Curry. We know Klay Thompson has been around. We know that they're working with Steve Kerr, who has a couple championships under his belt. So again, the Sixers, I believe, have quite an advantage in this one, but it's always a mistake to underestimate any opponent in this league.
Yes, the Warriors will obviously roll out Wiggins, who's putting up some really good numbers this season. And it does look like, based on media availabilities, as I'm scrolling through, that James Wiseman, a top pick in this year's draft, he's going to be available. And starting tonight, it looks like a permanent change for the rest of the season, that he's going to be starting for the rest of the year for the Golden State Warriors.
Exciting times. We've seen a little bit more Tyrese Maxey over the last few games in the absence of a few Sixers. So always cool to see some of the best rookies in the rookie class facing off. And I'd certainly put Tyrese in that category.
Yeah, Wiseman, the number 2 pick out of Memphis. So the 76ers and the Golden State Warriors, the first of 2 meetings in this second half of the season. I'm going to check the old Tissot NBA XL Special Chrono. Oh, yes, kind of got it right this time. Almost. Great. Terrific. It's time for the Tissot keys to the game, which I might make a permanent change for the rest of the season, barring any unforeseen circumstances. Just like the Warriors, I'm going to say Lauren will start us off with the keys to the game, each and every segment going forward.
Wow, what an honor. All right, I'm ready. My key is really simple tonight. I said don't ease up. We talked about defense. We talked about a full 48 on defense. The Sixers have a clear defensive advantage tonight, even without Joel Embiid. If they can start as strong as they have over the last few games and then maintain that intensity throughout, I don't think they're going to have a ton of problems getting past this Warriors team as long as they don't ease up.
Love it. Perfect. And I would agree wholeheartedly. I think for me tonight, a couple things stand out. First of all, the Warriors, a big part of their identity. We've known this over the years, regardless who's in or who's out. They play with pace. They have the second fastest pace in the NBA. The Sixers have been trying to up their tempo a little bit. But if I'm the Sixers, try and set your own pace. Whatever Doc Rivers feels is the best balance for this game based on his personnel, go with that. Put the pace of the game in your own hands and not that of the Warriors. Warriors not a strong rebounding team. The Sixers have been great in that area, so I think the Sixers, things pointing in their favor, but dictate the pace and flow of the game.
I think our keys pair nicely tonight. Yeah, I'm with it.
I agree. Tissot keys to the game brought to you by Tissot. One of the things that's different for this year, a lot is different in the NBA this season, is that we have Zoom access to all types of media availabilities, whether it's for the 76ers, opposing teams. Even though the world is more distant right now in some ways through technology, we're all able to be closer together. Lauren and I were on Steve Kerr's media availability before tonight's game, and I think we just wanted to acknowledge this because of how powerful both the words and the imagery was associated with Steve Kerr and his pregame address, Lauren.
For sure. Steve Kerr started not about basketball, but addressing the lives lost this week in Atlanta and in Boulder. Gun violence, obviously, a cause that's really close to Coach Kerr's heart. And he always has really eloquent, articulate thoughts about some of the most difficult issues that our country faces. Today was no different. And I was moved by the gesture that Coach Kerr started his media with. And felt pretty lucky to be able to witness what he had to say and the image that he put forward.
Yeah, and for anyone who doesn't know Steve Kerr's backstory really quickly, his dad, Malcolm, was shot and killed in the Middle East while serving an ambassador-type role over there when Steve was, if I'm not mistaken, in college at Arizona. Perhaps I might have the details of that wrong, and I apologize for that if I do. But it wasn't when he was young. It was when he was farther along in life, and you can certainly understand why that issue is so close to Steve Kerr. So applause to Steve Kerr and the Warriors for taking an unequivocal stance on clearly a dire and really terrible issue that's going on in our country. But to wrap things up on a more positive note, we talked about Danny Green and the great things he's been doing on the court for the 76ers. Lauren, a really cool announcement for Danny Green earlier today.
Yes, indeed. Danny will be donating $1 million to the University of North Carolina's basketball program for a scholarship endowment there. Really cool to see Danny give back to a place that was obviously really special to him for 4 years. He had a lot to say about his time at Carolina, a region of the country that I have an appreciation for, regardless of what school we might be talking about here. Really cool to see Danny give back to a place that gave him so much. So nothing but applause and appreciation for what Danny's doing to give back.
No question. And that was when the winning all started for Danny Green, the first of his 4 rings. All right. That'll do it. Late night 7-6 live countdown presented by Tissot in the books. For no lack of energy on your end, Lauren. Seemed just like 7 o'clock game energy level by you.
Doing my best, Seltz. I was blessed and fortunate to have a 30-minute nap this afternoon, a rare occurrence for me on a game day. I had a nap and a walk today, Seltz. That might be the key to the rest of the week. So looking forward to following along with this one with you, with everybody else that's watching. Please engage with us tonight. We're going to need reasons to stay awake and to stay excited about this one. I look forward to it and always enjoy doing this with you, Seltz.
All righty. Thanks to Ryan Coletti, Trevor Gaffney on the sticks. We'll talk to you for Thursday's game in the Lakers, and we'll have some reaction to whatever does or does not happen at 5 p.m. Eastern on Thursday. Talk to you then. See ya.